Macedonia is a small country located in the Balkans. With a land area of around 25,000 square kilometers, it's home to about 2 million people. The country is squeezed between several Balkan nations and is almost surrounded by them. To the west is Albania, to the north Kosovo and Serbia, and to the east and south lies Greece. Because it sits between other countries, Macedonia doesn't have any coastline. Its only real waterfront is in the south, where it shares part of the world-famous Lake Ohrid. The rest of the lake lies within Albanian territory. When people visit Macedonia, they typically go to two main cities, Ohrid and, of course, the capital city of Skopje in the north. While Muslims pronounce it Uskup, the city is widely known around the world as Skopje. If you zoom in on Skopje on the map, you'll see a river cutting right through the middle of the city. This river is called the Vardar, and it literally divides Skopje in two. But the division isn't only about geography, it also reflects two completely different lifestyles and cultures. On one side of the stone bridge, the European side, you get a completely different atmosphere. On the other side, the lifestyle of the local Muslim community paints a very different picture. It honestly feels like you're walking through two unrelated cities inside the same city. One side looks and feels very European, Western-style architecture, lighter-skinned people with a Western appearance, cafes, casinos, food, lifestyle. Everything feels Western. On the other side, every second person is speaking Turkish, and the overall culture clearly reflects Ottoman-influenced Muslim life. Shops are small and low-rise, people have darker features and look more like Turks. There are mosques everywhere, and the restaurants serve the same charcoal-grilled dishes you'd find in Turkey. It's clear that even though the Ottoman Empire lost its territory in the Balkans, the Muslim communities stayed in their homes and preserved their culture, even under a different state. Another thing we noticed is that the vast majority of tourists in this area are from Turkey. I heard some Spanish and Italian here and there, but honestly, almost everyone else was speaking Turkish. Around this time of year, the weather in Macedonia is unpredictable. It might start off cloudy, but suddenly the sun comes out. When you start walking around the city, the first thing you notice is the sheer number of statues. Everywhere you turn, another statue is waiting for you. Each one has a meaning for the locals, but for visitors, it can feel a bit overwhelming. They're not ugly. They've just gone a little overboard. You'll see a bull statue on one corner, a woman statue on another. In one spot, there's a little boy shining shoes, and somewhere else, an elderly monk-like figure. There are countless statues like these. Honestly, I've never seen so many sculptures packed into such a small area in any city around the world. Along the Vardar River, you'll also find a few ship-themed cafes. Some of these wooden ships are abandoned and in terrible condition. Others function as cafes and restaurants. We didn't sit at any of them, and I doubt they offer anything particularly unique. Another interesting thing is the architecture. Some of the buildings here could easily be mistaken for those in Western Europe. I'm not talking about the regular apartment blocks, but the cinemas, hotels, and buildings surrounding the main square. They've put a lot of effort into their design. The buildings aren't very tall, but they're beautifully decorated. The government buildings lined up along the river also look impressive, both during the day and at night. As for the streets, Skopje is relatively clean. I didn't see piles of trash anywhere in the city center. The municipality seems to take cleanliness seriously. But at night, the city gets surprisingly dark. Still, if you take a walk in the main square at night, the peaceful atmosphere mixed with the warm glow of the street lamps gives you that "I'm glad I came here" feeling. I actually love these European-style streetlights. They add a kind of artistic touch to the city. Their flag is also beautiful, and you can see it waving in many parts of Skopje. Since the climate here is generally mild and pleasant, they chose to symbolize the sun on their flag. During the day, in the capital, you'll occasionally spot ultra-luxury cars. Most vehicles on the road are mid-range or older models, but you still see some high-end ones. Macedonians tend to prefer German cars. Taxis, however, are quite old, both inside and out. All the taxis are white and part of a single system. Because Macedonia, and especially Skopje, is quite small, there's no metro system. In fact, there are no trams either. You can explore most of Skopje just by walking. Many people go to work or school by bike or electric scooter. The main square is full of people riding scooters, and those who prefer public transport use the red double-decker buses, which might look familiar. You'll see buses like these in Spain, and especially in England. They're not exactly the same models, but the concept and design are very similar. When it comes to traveling from Macedonia to other Balkan countries, you can take buses as well. But that experience was a disaster, and I'll explain that at the end of the video. The people in Macedonia are generally warm and cheerful. They seem to live stress-free lives. Even though the country isn't wealthy, people appear satisfied with what they have. Of course, some of the people you see, as in our case, are temporary visitors. Maybe it was just our timing, but we noticed a very high number of women in Macedonia. You see more women than men almost everywhere. Most of them seem to be between 20 and 35 years old, which suggests that the country has a fairly young population. If you stand on the bridge and watch people for just a few minutes, you'll notice that more than half look under 40. People here spend a lot of time in cafes, hours and hours just drinking coffee. No matter which Balkan country you visit, they all love their coffee. Macedonians are no different. They enjoy ordering a cup and chatting for hours. But I have to say this, people really pay attention to their personal care and the way they dress. Men usually keep their hair short and their beards neat. Women, on the other hand, almost always wear makeup and prefer stylish outfits. Overall, people dress in a very Western style, and some women in particular look extremely Western in their appearance. From what I've observed, the people here lack nothing when it comes to modernity or hygiene. If anything, they exceed expectations. For example, when you try to cross the street, almost every car slows down and gives you the right of way. Even this small detail says a lot about their sense of civility. But despite having so many young and beautiful people, this is a country that ends up losing its youth. Once they reach adulthood, many young people leave Macedonia and head toward more developed countries. As a result, the country itself isn't very developed and feels a bit behind the times. It clearly needs more investment and progress. Especially outside the capital, some buildings and roads really need maintenance. To become a truly developed Balkan nation, they need to be more productive. For example, how many well-known Macedonian brands are there in the world? Honestly, I don't know any, and I'm sure most people don't either. Expecting the country to grow solely through tourism and fruit and vegetable production is quite difficult. Aside from that, the Vardar River, which flows under the main bridge, has cycling and walking paths along its banks. People ride their bikes there all the time. Both the river area and many of the buildings in the city are covered with graffiti. The Macedonian government doesn't see these as harmful and allows them to stay. Maybe they think it adds color to the city. Newlyweds also love taking photos along the riverbanks and in front of the beautifully designed buildings by the water. On the other hand, the country has a large number of casinos. Even though nearly half of the population is Muslim, the casino industry is seen as a source of income, and people can earn money in whatever sector they like. In the capital, Skopje, you'll also find many public fountains, and you can drink from them safely. If you taste the water, you'll notice how sweet and clean it is. There's no need to buy bottled water in Macedonia. Especially if you're at a cafe, you can simply drink to your heart's content from the fountains that provide fresh, natural water. But because of economic conditions, the number of beggars and homeless people is overwhelming. Beggars especially cling to you, and if they sense even a slight chance of getting money, they don't leave your side. Macedonians don't consider these beggars as one of them and tend to look at them negatively. Regardless of their ethnic background, if an issue exists within the country, we can't separate it from Macedonia and pretend it's not there. In my view, Macedonia's biggest problems are its weak economy and the beggar issue. In the capital, you'll come across a beggar almost every 100 meters. They usually gather at the entrances and middle sections of the bridge, which is the busiest spot. Beggars often use children, and because people feel sorry for kids and give them money, it becomes a profitable cycle. They end up having more children and sending them out to the streets. When you offer them food, they refuse. They want cash. After a while, you realize they're not actually hungry. This has simply become a way of making money. If you stay there longer than 3 days, you eventually get tired of this and start avoiding them by walking several meters away whenever you see one. Besides the beggars, there are street vendors selling fake watches and perfumes. They usually have darker skin tones and likely belong to different communities. They try to sell tourists fake products as if they're real and demand high prices. If they claim the product is original, don't believe it. It's not. And honestly, I doubt they even pay taxes on what they sell, since it seems like completely unregistered work. Despite the huge number of beggars and questionable street vendors, you barely see any police. During my week of observations, I hardly came across any proper police patrols. The few police officers that were around didn't intervene in anything. There are also street performers trying to earn money by making music, and I genuinely respect these people. Many of them play beautiful music. Some do karaoke and add their own vocals, while others play purely with instruments. I didn't see many stray animals in Skopje. Occasionally, you might come across a stray dog in more remote areas, but stray cats are almost non-existent. Most dogs seem to be domesticated and owned. People walk their dogs around the capital, and the animals look well-behaved. When we look at income levels, our local friends told us that pensions are around 150 euros, and average workers earn around 500 euros. Many don't even make that much. The local currency is the Macedonian dinar, and its value is extremely low. For example, 1 euro or $1 equals roughly 60 dinars. For those earning euros or dollars, eating and drinking in this country is practically free. Even in clean, well-rated hotels in the center of the capital, you pay only about 250 euros for 7 nights with your partner. In the Muslim district of Skopje, the best quality restaurants charge no more than 30 euros for 2 people eating meat dishes, assuming you're not ordering alcohol. Do they offer anything special in terms of food culture? Honestly, I don't think so. Some dishes are things you can easily find in Turkey, while others are typical foods you'd see in almost any Balkan country. For example, they have a well-known place where they serve long, kebab-like meat pieces with onions and peppers. They bring shopska salad and beans cooked in a clay pot on the side. Everyone should try it at least once, but it's not something exceptionally unique. For breakfast, they often eat plain pastry stuffed into bread, and if you want meat-filled pastry, the amount of meat inside is quite small. Yet, there are always long lines in these pastry shops. In Kosovo, Turkey, or Bosnia and Herzegovina, you can find pastries with much more filling. On the European side of the country, baked goods are also widely consumed. The only real difference is that many of them include pork. As you know, Muslims don't eat pork, and this creates some differences in food culture. If you're thinking of moving to the country permanently, you can apply for a residence permit. And according to our guide, the lively young Macedonian crowd you see in the main squares is a good sign of the country's welcoming vibe. There are also many young, single women living here. Another way to obtain residency is by investing at least $4,000 in North Macedonia, or by purchasing property. The country needs investment, and they don't turn away people who are willing to contribute. There's also a public market that operates almost every day. North Macedonia produces most of its own fruits and vegetables, so they don't rely heavily on imports. As a result, you can find affordable produce both in markets and supermarkets, though local markets are usually cheaper. There's absolutely no food shortage here, and you can easily maintain a healthy diet at low cost. If you want to live somewhere calmer and more peaceful, then Skopje isn't your best option. You should head south to Ohrid. This is where many wealthier locals and expats choose to live. The houses are mostly detached villas, and the area is quiet all year round. After Skopje, Ohrid is the most visited city in the country, and many people interested in moving here start by checking house prices in Ohrid. To give you an example, a standard apartment in the capital costs around 50,000 euros to 70,000 euros. But in Ohrid, you'll likely have to pay more than 50,000 euros for a home. Owning a car in North Macedonia, however, is much cheaper than buying an apartment. You can find a used car for as little as 5,000 euros. And if you want something newer and more comfortable to use for many years, around 20,000 euros is enough to buy a very good car. In short, car ownership here is easy and affordable. Finally, if you plan to travel from North Macedonia to Albania, Kosovo, or other nearby Balkan countries by bus, good luck. A journey that should take 4 hours ends up taking 7 or 8, and the minibuses are quite old. There are usually 2 drivers who take turns, but the entire trip is filled with loud chatter and laughter. And yes, they smoke inside the minibus. I couldn't record that part because I didn't want to jeopardize our trip to Albania. Just keep in mind, don't expect comfort or professionalism in cross-border road travel. Maybe not all companies are like this, but overall, these are my observations about life in North Macedonia. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.